Hello everyone, welcome to another session on Rajat City Photography. Today what I want to share with you is a very simple technique for skin retouching. If you're short on time, then this is the best way to go ahead. It barely takes around 10 to 15 minutes for you to retouch the skin. So without much ado, let me open the file that I want to share with you and work on. So first I'll open the raw file and do some very basic changes, and I'll share with you my workflow. So the first step is for me to go to lens correction and remove any chromatic aberrations and do profile corrections. Once I've done that, I go back to the correction dialog box and do some basic, very basic corrections. So the first step is, let's see if we need to increase the exposure. I will increase it marginally to say around 45 plus 0.45. I will increase the contrast, not much, because it's already a pretty sharp photograph since it's been taken in the studio. Maybe to around plus 6. I will reduce the highlights to say around minus 50. Yeah, this should be good. Open up the shadows to around, yeah, this 40. So I want to open up the shadows mainly to ensure that there's a separation between the background and the hair, which is what you can see has happened. And then I want to reduce the whites marginally, not much, say minus 9 should be good. Again, blacks, increase the blacks. Yeah, I think this should be good. Again, minus 9. I don't really much touch the texture clarity and dehaze controls much. What I would do is to increase the vibrance to say around plus 10 to give it a little bit more warmth. Okay, I think we're good to go. And then I'll open this raw image in JPEG format in Photoshop CC. What I want to do is to just increase the size of the image. Just kind of see what needs to be done, and as you can see, there is a fair amount of work that needs to be done on the blemishes. There are some highlights of the studio lights which possibly need a little bit of softening. So, and that's really pretty much it. We don't want to overdo the skin retouching. So first what I'll do is create a new layer. So Control J, I think in Mac it's Command J, and once you open the layer you inverse the image, so that's Control I, and then you go and from normal you go to vivid light. We then go to the filters, go to other, high pass filter, click on that, and try and see what radius you want to keep, which you're comfortable with. Normally what I do is, if it's a good photograph and it's a sharp photograph, I keep the values between 18 to 24. So in this case I'll keep it around 20, and I think this is fine. I click OK, and then I go to filter again, go to blur, go to Gaussian blur, and again play with the radius a little to see where you're getting the texture back. So maybe not much, but just getting some texture back so that it's not totally softened the image. So I think a 2.5 or so is good for me for this image. It totally depends on the image you're working on. The radius could be anything between 3 to 5. sometimes, if the image is not very sharp or not very good, or it's a distant image, you may want to just keep the radius at 1. But for this, I think 2.5 is good. Hit OK. Okay. And then you want to create a mask for this layer 1. So I'll go to the mask, press Alt Enter, and you get a mask. And then what I want to do is to really brush in the changes that I've made. So just ensure that your foreground is white and your background is black here. Take a brush, press B, and then take the brush, increase the opacity to, just make sure that the opacity just between 80 to 100 should be good. I'll keep it at around 80, and then increase the size of the brush. Focus on the large areas of the skin, and right now, remember, we're just doing skin retouching, so you don't need to focus on the hair or the lips or the eyes. It's primarily for the skin. So take the large areas, use a large size brush, and just paint on the skin. As you can see, how the skin improves. Remember, you can always reduce the opacity later if you feel that you've overdone, or it started looking unnatural. So right now what I'm going to do is to just work with an opacity of around 80, work on the large areas, just paint in maybe the undersides of the eye, margin to some extent. Go to the chin section, work on this. Don't go too much to the edges, just focus on the large sections if you've got a very high radius, opacity, sorry. Okay, yep. Okay, I think this should be fine. Then go to this, go normally to the neck area, just do some minor improvement here in the neck, and then the hands. Now if there are some, try and keep the opacity a little low for the hands. I mean, right now, since I'm using, I'm doing the large areas, I've kept the opacity at 80, but what I will do is really reduce the opacity to around, say, between 35 to 40. So I'll right now keep it at 40, reduce the brush size, and then just paint in and use this opacity especially for the edges. Okay, I think we're pretty much done on the hands. Now what I'll do is, with this reduced opacity of 40, I will just work my brush on the edges. Again, the underside of the eyes, the nose section, and above the lips. And remember, if you do make any errors, or if you feel that you've overdone some section, you can always go to reverse the background layer, and then you will get the original back if you brush in the original. So it's never a problem if you've overdone. You can always correct it later. Okay, I'll reduce the size a little more and do the finer sections with an opacity of around 40. Let me see, a little under the lips. Again, careful not to paint on the lips, because we want to keep the lips sharp. Yeah, I think that's pretty good now. Yeah. So just to show you, This is what the original was. Let me increase the size. As you can see, this is what the original was, and this is after we worked on the photograph and improved the skin. So again, it totally depends on your creativity. It depends on what kind of picture you're working on. You may want to, the values will depend on that. But the process is pretty much done. And, as you've seen, we've hardly taken around 10 minutes to do this. What I'll do then is to, flatten the layers, basically merge them. And then what I normally would do, especially in a photograph which has jewelry, is create a new layer with Control J, and I'll go to the dodge tool, which essentially lightens up some of the sections. So in this case, I want to brighten up the jewelry to some extent. So as you see, if I just paint in the, I just if you see, there's an improvement in terms of brightening up the jewelry. Maybe her nose ring and her necklace. There you are. Yeah, I think that's it. There's nothing much that needs to be done on the ring. I think that's pretty sharp and good. And then what I'll do is go to the sharpen it slightly. So go to the sharpen tool, and then again, just sharpen the jewelry to as much, because as you see, the ring is pretty sharp. It's the necklace and the earrings which need some sharpening. That's what I normally would do if there is jewelry. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think we're done now here. Just a little here. Yeah. There you are. Maybe nose ring section little. Okay. Yeah, there you are. So if you see the jewelry, what it was before and what it's now, this is what it was before and this is what it is now. So it's a significant difference in terms of the brightness of the jewelry. So I think we're pretty much done. I think the eyes are sharp. There's some light highlights on the eyes. The eyes are sharp. I don't need to do much on the lights on the eyes. So that's really it. We're done, and it's hardly taken us any time. So this is a very quick and simple way to improve the skin and to retouch the skin. If you're short on time or you just want to do a job which is good and yet does not take much time. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial of mine. If you've liked it, do subscribe. I will be posting many more tutorials on simple techniques of Photoshop, particularly for portraitures. And thank you very much, and all the best to you in this lockdown. Take care.